Development requires data. Data is the salt for ensuring that developments are tracked, problems are understood, quantified, and solutions as designed and implemented are followed through. A big saying that what happens to salt when it's lost is saltiness. Only fit for men to trample on it with their feet. So all questions development require data, because data is the salt that defines and quantifies and ensures that the development that nations desire actually nations follow. Data revolution for me implies, in my own circumstance as a person who was growing up and doing research, when that woman calls and determines when they can plant crops instantly, that's data revolution. Prior to that, people would write a letter, the husband will answer from the mine, and by that time it would have rained and dried. But data revolution means managing to contact, allow the decision to be made and be implemented. When that happens in Kenya, where somebody is able to transfer money instantly so that action can be taken, that's data revolution. In Lesotho, when the woman determines when to plant instantly because she has consulted the husband over the phone, that's data revolution. In the greater scheme of things, data revolution means powerful tools that are used to ensure that decisions are made and proper implementation is successfully implemented. At the moment, when you look at questions of data, you look at the mobile telephony, you find that mobile telephony is accessible to almost all citizens. But it's used as something that you can communicate messages and talk on. But the internet, the power of the internet in that space has not actually crept on the poor. Because one, it is still very expensive to access internet. Two, people are not confident about using it. What needs to be done is to impact on those communities that are poor, in particular by accessing internet. They're already accessing tools based on data revolution, like transferring money instantly. So we need now to ensure that the data is available to them instantly and they can access it. It's who owns it and who determines what has to be in those data sets. The data is a commons, and we have to drive that message that it must be a commons. And it's a commons that me and you provide to those who are able to write the algorithms. That commons must be available to everybody. And if it is not, it is likely to make those who own the processes as well as the technology to be super rich and probably go into philanthropy, which is good as well. But I don't think that we need charity to solve development problems. We actually have to deal with economic systems that are just to solve development problems. In this space, data revolution can play a very important role in resolving the relations of production in society and even out the inequality that we see ravaging the world. Today's multimillionaires and billionaires are largely young, coming from the data spaces. And therefore there is in data a creation of inequality. And we have to watch that, because data has the ability to be created and implemented by very, very few people who can get super rich on behalf of all of us as a collective. It must be democratized, and the benefits of it must be divided. They're very important because amongst ourselves as government employees, private sector concerns, civil society, we actually sit together and ask ourselves the question, how is data liberating us? And I think answering those questions squarely and fiercely is what is important, because in data, we can actually, as society, get very, very much liberated. If we get it wrong, it can actually raise inequality. And I don't think this is what we need to raise. We do not want to increase inequality in the world. We want to resolve those inequalities. And data revolution and information that provides transparency and everything enables us to overcome and speed up the difficulties that inequality brings to the world. Well, I mean, the Secretary-General raises 5 important messages in relation to this, and all those are very appropriate, and they can be enabled and delivered through understanding and knowledge. First is leave no one behind. Unless we know everyone and know that about everybody, we cannot guarantee that we haven't left anyone behind. So we need to know everybody. Civil registration and vital statistics is very important to register every birth and every death and every migration and know about everybody in the world. That's one, so that no one is left behind or no one chooses to be left behind. That's one. Second is ensuring that the economies create employment. We need to create employment. At the moment, the levels of unemployment in any country, including developed countries, are increasing at a rate that is not acceptable, and therefore increasing inequalities. That has to be solved. Third is looking at the environment, ensuring that the ecosystems are protected. And that's the third estate that comes into the world. Before it was just labor and capital. Today, we are looking at the environment. And by looking at the environment, I think we can actually equalize in ways that have not been hitherto known the way the economic systems actually function. Production relations are understood, the rates of accumulation, the inequalities. By bringing the environment and account to it fairly, will bring justice to the system. And then, of course, getting accountable and just systems in the way we do work. And those just systems have to do with economic justice and social justice. And when we bring and factor those in, we can drive equitable systems in the world. But as I said, to the extent that technologies are owned by a few, and a few engineers actually do fantastic work, but in doing so, they also accumulate tons and tons of billions of dollars. That doesn't augur well for the world that we seek. Technology in the same way, therefore, they have to be accountable to society in terms of how they actually apply the technology. And they have to account to society so that they don't accumulate this, huge amounts of money. And of course, then become philanthropic. I don't think we despise philanthropy, but I think there are limits to which philanthropy becomes an excuse for ugly distributions of income in the world.